Hello and welcome to lesson two. Yeah, two. We'll call it lesson two to the map making tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at, or in this lesson, I don't know which day you're viewing these videos, but we're going to be looking at the map file. We're going to look through the map file. We're going to look at the corresponding XMLs. We're going to briefly do an overview of what those different XMLs are doing, what they're communicating with, and how they're relating to the in-game map that we just looked at in the first lesson. So without further ado, let's get into it. I always had to click on this PowerPoint to click there we go. Okay, so prep work. You're gonna need to download the tutorial map that I provided. You can use any 1x map, but the tutorial map is the cleanest. We're gonna build this map up from the ground up. So you're going to basically create your own map file off of this. There are a couple things that I included in the tutorial map to make things a little bit easier for you. But regardless, those things that I added, I'm going to teach you how to add them anyways. But these are just things that'll make your life a little bit easier. They're not really necessary, I suppose, since we're going to learn it. But, you know, some of you are lazy. I'm helping you out. All right, stop complaining. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so you want to download that tutorial map? You want to download Notepad++. I've included a link here. There's probably an updated version from what I have. We're going to use that to look through the XMLs. Notepad++ is a lifesaver. Way better than just using normal Notepad. Okay, so the map file, let's get into it. Hopefully we won't spend too long on this compared to the last lesson, but you never know. Okay, the map file, I'm gonna open it up. You can open this up. I have the tutorial map here on the desktop, and I just opened up Giants Editor, and just like our previous lesson, I clicked open mod and I created a working directory, and that created this file right here, tutorial map. Okay, you guys can see that, right? Okay, just making sure. So I'm going into the tutorial map folder. Okay, let me pull up my PowerPoint, make sure I know what I'm doing here. Sure I'm organized. All right, this is the map file I've provided for you, sorry, not with you. This map file is going to look differently for every different map, pretty much. This is the front of the file, so when you click on the map file, when the map reads tutorial map or whatever, it's jumping straight into here and it's looking for mod desk, and that's going to load everything else up in this file. So let's look at, I'll show you, for example, another map file. This is County Line, a conversion I'm working on. This map file, the front of the file, looks way more complex. There's a lot more going on here. We're going to add all of this. Don't worry about that part yet. All of this is just like advanced functions, foliage here, bales, new bales, stuff like that. That's all going to get added later. We're going to build from the ground up, so you know what you're doing. It's important that I don't just like provide you with everything. You're building this map up from the base, not just because, just because you want all of these things, but like learning these very basic principles. You're going to be able to do whatever you want with your map. Instead of me just giving you everything right off the bat and you not knowing what's going on, that's not learning. So we're going to build this map from the ground up. Don't worry. Okay, so, excuse me. I don't know if you heard that. So we're starting off with the front of the file. The organization of the map file is very important. Because file paths are very important. All these XMLs are going to have different file paths, and they're going to be referring to different things, like textures, or in XML, it's going to be referring to a whole bunch of different things, and you need to have a good file structure for that. And so right now I have boiled it down to a foliage file. You're always going to need that for the custom foliage. We'll get to that later. Maps. You're going to need this is going to have additional files underneath there. Textures, we'll talk about that in a second. Some of the XMLs you're going to be used, like animated objects. Default items I always put in the front of the folder. This could really be anywhere. Mod desk is going to be at the front of the folder, and mod map Lua. Your map will not work if you don't have the mod map Lua. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, textures. So Textures are the file path for textures, very important. You saw us change the textures in the map earlier on Mercer County. Basically, you're referring to where those textures are located when you're changing those textures, like on a concrete wall or on the siding of a building. Those textures are going to be in here. They're going to show up as PNG or DDS, most likely DDS. They should be DDS files. Okay, and if you cannot locate, if you have a file structure that's screwed up or something like that, and you cannot locate textures in this folder, they're in another folder. Then when you bring this folder into your mods folder and load it up in the game, the map is not going to be able to locate those textures. Okay, they're all your buildings are going to show up white instead of, a concrete texture or a steel siding. They're all going to show up white, and it's going to be ruined. Okay, so file structure, very important, especially for textures. Okay, and so we'll jump into maps here. I have a ground texture folder that I provided. I'll show you how to change ground textures all you want. That's basically like the field textures and whatnot. That's when we painted cultivator density or a plowed texture, all of that's going into here. And well, I suppose we should cover the map i3 first. Let's go ahead and open that up, because you're gonna see or open it up in Notepad+. So you're gonna see how these file paths are organized and what's referring to what. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit to open it up as in Notepad++. You saw that we opened it up in i3 3D right here. Just right click, open with Notepad++. You can also open that. That's also what we're opening in Giants Editor. Okay, so you can both open it as a Notepad or as a you can open it in Giants Editor and Notepad++. Okay, so you see how. Let's go past data, because that's referring to the base game files. You see, these are all different file paths. Okay, so the $ data maps textures, that's basically saying you're going to the base game files. Okay, for these textures. Okay, and this could, these file paths are going to refer to different things. This is just the textures. Okay, so this is the base game. This is this ... right here is saying, this is basically saying go to the front of the folder. Okay, we don't want to go to the base game. We want to go to our own mod folder and draw the foliage from that. So that's what this line is saying. Okay, this is gonna be important when we're adding foliage later. Okay, let's see, there's weight files in here that's referring to the map DE. So let's see, we're in map. Okay, maps, map DE right here. Good. Okay, that's where those weight files are. Under these lines. Okay, and notice how these don't have a ... in front of them. Okay, we don't need to go, since the i3D is in the same file. It's in the maps file, not the front of the folder, but in the maps file. You don't have to put that ... You don't have to tell it to go back to the front of the folder. Okay, because what we have open in Notepad++ right here, that's in the same file path. This folder is in the same file, if that makes sense. Okay, so these are all the file paths for textures and whatnot. The weight density, we'll get into that. Materials, we're going to get into the material editing. We displayed a little bit of that in Giants Editor. And then here's the painted textures. So that's basically explaining this. None of this is relevant, by the way. We'll get to it. Don't worry. So that's basically like the showing off the importance of those file paths. Okay. So let's open map DE. This is where our weight files are located. All these weight files are basically where your gravel texture is going to be painted onto the ground. Beach wet, sand wet, forest, ground, grass. It's all going to be determined by these weight files. We'll get into this later as well, but quickly, what you need to note is that these have to be the proper size. 1x maps are 2048 by 2048. You can hover over it. You see the dimensions there. They're all PNG files. They're all black right now because we haven't painted anything except grass. There's the grass everywhere on the map. Okay. So these will show up in black and white. When you paint something down on the ground, like a big gravel road, it'll show up under the gravel. Yeah, where's gravel there? It'll show up in like a white winding road or something like that. Okay, so that's what those are. Those are all the painted ground textures. We have our cultivator density. This shows up as a GDM file, but we're gonna convert it to a PNG, just like these weight files, soon enough, and I'll show you how useful that is. Field dimensions, that's a GRLE file. I don't know what GDM and GRLE stand for. I just know they're different, but they both can be converted to PNG format. I'll show you the usefulness of that later. Fruit density, that's basically where your deco foliage is going to be painted. Where if you plan on painting corn on the ground or grass, that's all determined by this. Cultivator density is basically fields, but I discussed that on Mercer County in the lesson prior to this. Your DEM is located in here, your digital elevation model. This is going to determine the height of the map. This is also a PNG, also an image. This also has to be the right size for a 1x. It has to be 1025 by 1025. This is why you're using this tutorial map, by the way. All of the file sizes, the weight files, DEM and cultivator density, they're all the correct size for a 1x. Okay, so excuse me. When you do a 4x, these sizes are going to be different. Okay, and so when we get into editing all of these, I'm gonna tell you, here's the sizes for a 1x, here are the sizes for a 2 or for a 4x, 16x, and whatnot. Okay. So that's, and here's the seasons mask, but all of our info layers are going to go in here. All of our useful tools are info layers that we're going to be using to paint the field dimensions or paint navigation mesh, stuff like that. That's going to go in here. Okay, and this map i3D that we were just looking at in Notepad, that's going to refer to that folder. It's also referring to the ground textures in here, referring to shaders. So we have FX circle shader. I believe that's the bipoint icon that spins or glows. That's what that shader is for. Ground shaders. There's going to be other shaders you could put in here easily. Mesh rotate shader, and then the fan that you're trying to get spinning, that'll just refer to an XML file in here. For shaders, default vehicles, pretty straightforward. I'll show you how to get default vehicles later. This could be at the front of the folder as well. It doesn't have to be in here. As long as your XMLs are telling the game where those things are located. If they're located in the wrong place, then it's going to throw errors at you. Okay, so if you put this in the front of the folder or any other one of these things, you need to tell the game where that's at, and you'll have to change some lines in the XMLs. Okay, these honestly, don't tell anybody, but these I don't know what these are. I've never played around with these yet. Somebody maybe can explain these to me, but I've never adjusted these, never played around with these. Okay, so don't touch them. Okay, so farmlands, we'll skip map.de really quick here. Farmlands, this is where we can open this up in Notepad++ if you want. This is basically all of the land that's owned and not owned. So this is your default starting property for a new farmer, I believe, and then the rest is unowned. The rest is the NPC owned land, and then you can designate which NPCs own that land. So NPC O2, all of that stuff you can designate in here. You can designate the price scale. So if you want to try to get realistic price scaling, you can do that through here. Okay. And so, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. This is going to correspond to the farmland GRLE. Well, we were just in that file. We were just in map.de. See how that file path right here, this file path, very important. Maps, map.de underscore farmland.grle. Okay. Maps, we're in that folder. Map.de farmland GRLE is right there. Okay. So it needs to be able to identify that. If this line's not right, if it's in a different spot, then you need to change that. But it'll be right because I'm giving you this tutorial map, and it's gonna be all fine. Let's exit out of the map i3D there. We'll discuss that further when we really get into it. Sound. Okay. This is this is the sound i3D. This is so sound, environmental sounds, and where they appear on the map, like running water or like birds chirping, frogs croaking. That's going to appear on different places on the map, but that actually is exported as a. It's going to have a bunch of transform groups like we saw on Mercer County on the first lesson. And those are all going to designate where those sounds are appearing on the map. But that ultimately those transform groups get exported to a separate i3D. Okay, map DE sound, that's corresponding with this i3D as well. We'll get into that. That's fun. There's a lot of cool things we can do with sounds. This is an area that I'd love to explore more. I know quite a bit about it, but I haven't really integrated it into my maps enough. Transport missions, this is obviously for transport missions. That's gonna happen through this XML. Fruit types. We don't have fill types in here, or any other XML. It gets a lot more complicated. Let's see if we can. I'm gonna jump into another folder here really quick because just to show you how like the added stuff that we're going to be putting in here. So we go to the maps here now. I got 2 animated XML objects folders. That's messy. These should be combined into one. I got the default vehicles. I got my husbandry food definition, which it doesn't show up on our tutorial map. That's what the cows and the pigs and all the animals are eating. We can change that. We just had to screw around with we had to tell the game, hey, we're not going to pull from the base game husbandry food definition file. We're going to pull from my own that I've edited. The bale types are in this folder. Fill types. We just saw fruit types, spray types. All of that's going to be, we're going to add all of that. I'm going to show you how to add it all. Don't worry. Yeah, we're going to add all of that, but right now we just have fruit types in here. And this is, I think I included this because you can go in here and there's a lot of things you can do through fruit types and fill types. But you can also edit like what crops appear. I shouldn't open this in just normal Notepad, but excuse me. These is by changing these values, true and false, you can tell the NPCs like what to plant and what not to plant. So you can have a map that's just full of corn, soybeans, and oats like I do, just by like turning these on and off. So like use for field job oats I got in here, and then the rest are false except for maize and soybeans should be. Yeah, there's soybeans. And yeah, corn. So I only like having those 3 because that's what I'm used to in my area is oats, corn, and soybean, Northeast Iowa. Okay, so we'll get into that more. We're going to add stuff. We're going to edit those. It's much more complex stuff. We don't need to know quite so much now. Obviously, if you want to skip forward to those lessons, you can. You're free to do whatever you want. Do these in whatever order you want. I highly suggest building up to that point, though, and don't jump around too much. Okay. The PDA image is in here. This is the map image. You all know that. So let's go back to the front of the folder. Textures, XML. Yeah, items. The mod desk. We're going to be editing this as well. This is how we are going to designate additional scripts. This is the icons. I think the map preview image is in here, maybe. Oh no, that's in the other. We should open map DE again. Okay, yeah, the name of the map is in here. The description, I just described it as the tutorial map. Default vehicles, the default items XML, again, file paths, very important here. Mod map, Lua, get into that later. Let's go back to maps. Let's go into map DE. Let's open that in Notepad, because Notepad is magic. Map DE, as opposed to mod desk, is where this is like the directory in which we tell the game all the different XMLs we're using, the material holders for additional crops like alfalfa and rye. All that's going to be detailed and defined in here. The ground type mapping. So this is what you can paint. It's actually what you can paint when you're in the sculpting mode in game. Which of those painted textures come with grass? That's going to be in here. Seasons. This is where the seasons mask is going to be. You got to have this line in here for seasons, or else you're not going to get seasons. Not going to work. There's plenty of lines in here. So like we were just talking about husbandry animals. That's referring to this file path. That's referring to the base game file path, right? So when in Marksville, or for this map, when we get to that point, we're going to basically change the file path to, maps, probably, yeah, it should probably be maps. So we would have it in like this folder. So it would be like / maps, and then you'd put the name of the XML in here. Does any of those do? Yeah, this one's maps, map.de, transport missions. Actually, you wouldn't put the .. because it wouldn't be at the front of the folder. It'd be in the same folder that this XML appears in. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you see all these file paths. We're gonna adjust almost each and every one of them. I've never played with the wildlife spawner, but I kind of want to. Let's see what here. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, the shop, the hotspots. So they can put the shop in here as well. This is going to be telling the game where the shop is located on the map, so it appears on the PDA. I think that's pretty much it for this. Yeah. Oh, down here, the fill types. These are we're gonna edit these lines so that they look like this line for the fruit types. Basically tell the game where that we're using, like for spray types, using anhydrous or using different bale types. That's all going to be redefined in here. Okay, it's super simple stuff. Please don't feel overwhelmed. It's really easy. Once you understand what's going on and what everything's referring to, it's super easy. I just wanted to give you a basic overview of the map file so that all of these it makes sense and you know where to locate everything, and how important the file structure actually is. The thing we're going to be referring to most is going into this map, opening the map in Giants Editor and also opening it in Notepad++, because we're going to be editing this quite a bit to add like deco foliage, and we're going to be adding like seasonal foliage in here. We'll be editing materials, animated objects, stuff like that. That's where this comes in. Oh, changing the ground textures that you can paint in Giants Editor. All very important stuff. Very important stuff. So all the shapes, all the buildings and everything, they'll appear in here. All the transform groups in the scene graph that you saw, that's all going to be in here. They're all going to be, it's all coded, it's all like referring to certain textures. There's the translation, the rotation, the clip distance, all of its attributes are going to be in here. Okay. So this is a very important part of the map file. Okay, so I hope this is a good general overview, because, and again, don't feel intimidated because we're going to be using all of this. We're going to be using all of it. Okay, except the stuff that I said that I don't understand. So we're going to be using pretty much all of it, and explaining how each of them function on an individual basis. Okay, so this is the end of this lesson. I believe I covered everything, just the basics. We're going to jump into doing a digital elevation model. So we're actually going to be making, we're actually going to bring elevation into our map. That's very exciting. That's the first exciting thing we get to do. So we're going to do that in the next lesson. So yeah, hopefully you found this helpful. I think this is an important lesson, so to demystify the map file, and mod files in general. And I'm looking forward to these upcoming lessons where your map's actually going to start taking shape now. Okay, so have a great day, night, whatever, sleep, nap, I don't know. I'll see you in the next lesson. All right, bye-bye.